Welcome to today's CPG Masterclass Series webinar. My name is Tom Bentley. I'm the Communications and Event Manager for the CPG. So first of all, I'd like to welcome you all as well. This one is going to be focused on, well, it's titled Getting to Grips with Your Regripping Service. So before I hand you over to Conor, just as a brief sort of rule base, just make sure your microphones are muted as always, but also keep your cameras on if you want to. That'd be really good so we can see who's there, give us a wave and get engaged with the webinar. We'll also be recording it, and as always with all the other ones, we'll upload onto the hub page afterwards. If you miss anything, you can go back to there and refer to your notes. And we will also have a Q&A afterwards, sort of 10-15 minutes, depending on how many questions we get. So make sure you post them during the presentation, because then I'll have a sort of group of questions to start with, and we can get rolling after Conor's finished presenting. So without further ado, I'll hand you straight over to Conor, who is very engaged with the CPG and has been for years. He's the Golf Pride Europe, Middle East and Africa Regional Manager, and is also a PGA member as well. And he's going to be talking to you about your regripping service and how you can improve that for your own business. So Conor, I'll hand straight over to you, and I'll mute my microphone.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks everyone for joining. I hope you're all keeping well, and hopefully there's light at the end of the tunnel. I hear some people from different European countries are saying that there's a big spike in club membership at the moment, so hopefully that will continue. What about the theme of the seminar? I really wanted to kind of talk about, just passing on some tips of how to effectively run a regripping promotion and long-term as a regripping business as well. The presentation will take about 25 to 30 minutes. And as Tom mentioned, there'll be kind of 10 or 15 minutes for some questions in the end. The agenda is kind of broken down into 4 different categories. I'll start off by giving an introduction to Golf Pride and just showing you where we stack up in the marketplace, looking at some stats, and then just talk about some initiatives that we're working on that have proved very popular with growing the regripping section, and then looking at some opportunities for the PGA professional or the club maker. And then the last couple of slides we'll finish by just indicating some very beneficial videos for training that we'll have available for you as well. So so where does Golf Pride stand? Our market share for the UK and Europe, we feel it's somewhere in the region of about 69 to 72%. This slide shows here some research that we did in 2019, which indicated that we were somewhere in the region of 69%. I think when you look at some of the other competitors, they would have a market share of 14% and then 7% respectively. So yeah, I mean, we've had a pretty decent share for a long period of time, and it's something that we're very proud of. So in the tour stats, looking at 2014, when you measure all of the global tours, that's the PGA Tour, the European Tour, the LPGA Tour, and so on, we had on average an 80% usage on the tours in 2014. And then when you play that to 2019, we finished that year about 87%. And I think it's worth pointing out that we don't pay any players to use our product, and no endorsements happen at all. So quite a good share that we're very proud of. And I think to the best of our knowledge on any tour globally, the 87% is unrivaled. Then when you look at some of our OEM customers, some very credible names who were doing very well in the marketplace for the last couple of years. Callaway, one of the grips we had as a standard offering with the Epic Flash last year was actually, our most expensive grip, which was the MCC Align technology. And that was a standard offering. You probably would have seen that in most retail and pro shops around. Then with Mizuno, regardless if it's irons or woods, the standard offerings are MCC. With Ping, Ping is an interesting case. Historically, Ping always had their own grips, which, you know, Golfride made the vast majority of them from, but they'd have the Ping logo. So last year we made a deal with Ping that all of their standard offerings were the Golfride Tour Velvet. And Titleist, again, another long-standing customer of ours, we have the Tour Velvet 360 in a white paint fill. That's just kind of a quick snapshot of some of the OEMs. Obviously, TaylorMade, Bridgestone, Cobra, and so forth are very strong customers of ours as well. Just going back into 2019, I'd just like to highlight some of the innovation that we brought to the market. I think when you look back 6-7 years ago, typically we come up with different product offerings, but they might be line extensions, they might be different color options. But we made a commitment some years back that every year we come out with new innovation or a brand new technology. And just to give you some information on what we did last year, we had the Z Grip Align, we had the MCC Align, a newer focus was the Tour Velvet Plus 4, which was a less taper grip under the right hand. And as most of you are probably aware, Plus 4 signifies 4 layers of tape extra under the right hand. With the Tour Series putter range, that's the softest putter grip we've ever produced. We've had them in different shapes and different sizes. And then the latter part of last year, we came out with the Pro Only, which are 3 different shapes and sizes. And it's kind of just a modern look on a kind of an older traditional putter grip. And then just to give you a sneak preview of what's due to be coming out in 2020, where we have a PAR date, which means product at retail date, for June and July in a mid-size grip. These will be 15 different colors, and it's very much based on the concept, support the colors of your team. So if you're a Man United player, if you're a Bayern Munich player, you can show your loyalty by using those colors on your grips. It doesn't have to be specifically for teams. It can be the countries that you're very proud to represent. Some of the color schemes we have in place will be the Swedish colors. We'll have the Spanish flag in place as well. So there'll be various different options. Some consumers will just, they'll have no loyalty to the grips at all, but it'll be just, they like the color of the grip. There's many, many different options there. And as I say, 15 different colors, and these will be available in the market from next month. Okay, so just parking the product offerings and the innovation for a second, I thought this slide would be very interesting just to have a look at. And we ran globally some market research in 2013. And we asked the question to avid golfers, how often do you regrip? And it came to light that in 2013, the 33% of the people we asked regripped annually. And we kind of looked at that and we thought, that's quite disappointing. We expected more. But then we thought to ourselves, if we could chip away at 1 or 2% annually, that could create a great opportunity. So really, if we could focus all of our marketing by growing the grip category, we'll be responsible for our own growth, regardless of what's happening in the golf industry or the golf market. And by redirecting our efforts to grow the category, we've seen some phenomenal growth over a period of time. And you can see in 17, it was 45%. Then finishing last year, it grew to 49%. So really where we stand in the market at the moment, it's virtually 50-50. And typically our message to consumers, where we always made the analogy of tires in a car. And we said, okay, if you play once a week, you need to regrip once a year. And we always said need to. But what we're trying to do with our marketing focus now is having consumers wanting to regrip and choosing to regrip. And I'll give you an example. Is we came out with the Align technology a couple of years ago. And we felt that people were actually curious to see if the technology worked. And the way we marketed our campaign, it was the aligned technology, consistent hand placement for consistent results. So we found people, even if they had regripped their clubs like 3 months ago, they were quite anxious to see if the technology would work for them. So we felt people were actually changing even more frequently, but they were wanting to try the latest innovation to see if that could help their game. So we've changed need to regrip to wanting to regrip. So I talked about earlier what methods we put in place to grow the category. And when I mean category, I mean grow regripping. And historically, a lot of the pros would keep their grips in the back of the workshop in some cupboard, and they wouldn't advertise their services at all. So we kind of thought if we invested in point of sale material and brought the kind of the experience of regripping out onto the shop floor, you know, what results would happen as a result of that. So we invested, as you can see, some of the tools, the grip walls and the spinners on the left-hand side. And then it became more about when the pro or the club maker is finding the right grip for the consumer, it's less about price and it's more, let's find the right grip for you. Let's do the right fit. And the great thing also is with the shafted samples on the displays, the consumer has the ability to touch and feel, to put the product into your hands. And as retailers, we all know how very important it is to get the product into the consumer's hands. And then it's just find your fit. You know, does the consumer like something a little bit oversized? Do they like something a bit softer, more comfortable? You know, are consumers playing most of their golf in all weather conditions, and maybe a full court could be a lot more beneficial. So you can custom fit your consumer by having all of these tools available. And clearly, when you go into the workshop or the consumer goes into the pro shop, they don't have to ask to the pro, oh, do you offer regripping? Because it's very obvious, everything is there in lights. So typically, these grip displays don't take up much room at all, regardless if you choose to put them in the pro shop, or you could have them on the driving range or in your workshop. Typically, you know, one of these displays would take up the same amount of room as a golf bag or maybe 2 golf bags hanging off the slot wall. But what these, you know, these provide, they give you an open theater effect in your pro shop or the driving range. Grips are repeatable. So as we talked about in an earlier slide, typically people are regripping more frequently. And also, I think you need to bear in mind that the average set of clubs, I think a consumer purchases a new set of clubs once every 6-7 years. So with that in mind, they clearly will need to have new grips, new fresh grips over a period of a year or 2 years. So understanding that in Europe, that all the pros offer different services, I thought this slide would be important to capture that we have displays available regardless of the environment. So if you're in a custom fitting studio or a driving range, I'd refer to the image on the right-hand side where that just hangs on the wall and it's, you know, pretty professional looking, but you don't necessarily need to have a pro shop or a golf shop. The image in the middle is, you know, it's a high-end retail pro shop, and this is taken from a foremost shop in the UK. And then the image on the left is, it's a workshop. So it's a different theater altogether. So really the point I'd like to make here is regardless of, you know, where you're working on, is it a driving range or a pro shop, we have different displays that could mean you could offer a very effective regripping business. So we've come a long way with promoting your business, and typically having spoken to many, many pros over the years, they never even thought about promoting their business. And I think what you can see and what this slide demonstrates is we've come on a long way. And, you know, this particular campaign, we've done it with a buying group in the UK. We've done similar ones in Europe, where you go into the pro shop and we have animation in an in-store monitor. We have the A-frames outside the door of the shop. We have newsletters on mobile and monitors. So it's very compatible to all the different marketing platforms that consumers are getting their information from. So more real-life examples are, the second one in is a campaign we did in Sweden. You can see it's translated as well. But there are various different campaigns that you can put together. And again, you know, some of the posters we're putting together are quite, you know, high-end and quite professionally done. The one on the left is very much based on custom fitting and size. You know, what does one size fit all? You know, if consumers' glove size is a jumbo, they're probably not going to use a standard grip size. And with this particular campaign, we made kind of a smaller sizing grip display available as well. So once the pro is in dialogue with the consumer, you can find the different textures, but definitely find the different fits as well that are compatible to the customer's hand. We also have on our website, we have an online fitting tool that a lot of your customers can reference to as well. But basically, some of the questions we ask when determining the right grip size are quite basic. But again, it's something that gives the professional the opportunity to have a lot of dialogue and a lot of engagement with their customers. Other campaigns we've done, if you reference the third one in, it was pretty much based on, it was product focused, it was promoting the Align technology, but what the pro would offer to their consumer is, you know, I'll install a grip free of charge on your 7-iron. You know, the consumer can go out and try it. They can compare the new grip versus their older grip. They can show it to their friends. They can see how it goes and how it is in the golf course. And then if they like, they can come in after the round and ask the pro to do the rest of the set with charge. So it's an investment of one grip free of charge, which, you know, we have provided before. And then the strike rate has been very, very positive. The amount of people that are wanting the rest of the set done as a result of just trying one grip on their 7-iron. So really, I think what this demonstrates are there are various different ways of enhancing that engagement with your consumers, but also the way you can turn out the promotions and how effectively you can produce some really nice looking posters to grab the imagination of the consumer. So this slide here is kind of more transferring best practices. And we talked, and we've got very good relationships with a lot of the club pros around the country and in Europe. And, you know, we called to this specific pro a couple of years ago, and we asked him about his regripping business, and he told us all his frustrations, and he was very quick to point out there was a lot of opportunity in regripping. So we kind of supplied him with a grip wall, and this pro very much had his grips in the back of the workshop. But then we, you know, invested in a grip wall, and he had that in lights in his pro shop. And he started to promote his regripping business a lot more effectively. And then, you know, some of his consumers would come into the pro shop and he'd say, oh, I'll put one grip on while you wait, you can try it, and then go up and have a coffee into the clubhouse. And then, you know, once you're done with your coffee, I'll come up to the pro shop and give you the rest of the clubs finished in 30 minutes. So he was very service minded, and, you know, he was offering his membership an enhanced service level, which is something he didn't do before, but it also gave him a lot of profitability. And really, if you look at the calculation underneath, you know, this is one example of a customer, and their gross margin is 48%. on one grip. And if you put that into monetary terms, in this particular case, it was nearly £4.60 profit per grip, which resulted in nearly £60 profit per set of 13. So the profitability is very attractive. And we had one case in Ireland where a pro last year made profit of €13,500. So even if, you know, the head pro is wanting to concentrate on lessons and is extremely busy, certainly there's the capability of incentivizing some other member of staff to look after the regripping business because the profitability is so strong. So really the take on this particular slide, I'd just like to emphasize it's great service levels to your students and to your members. The profitability is very impressive, like nearly 50% in some cases. You know, investing in a grip wall or a stock of grips is relatively low, and most distributors offer stock of grips next day or in a couple of days. So it means that you don't have to carry a terrible amount of inventory in the pro shop. And this service is non-conflicting. So, you know, you can still concentrate on, you know, the hardware, the drivers, the wedges, you know, the rainwear and all the different categories. But it might be a nice added service level to offer a regripping service. So some of the examples of how Golf Pride are spending their marketing dollars, their pounds, euro, is we're doing a lot less in print advertising. And you know, with the print advertising that we're doing, we're trying to be a lot more creative. So again, for us, raising the awareness of the grip category is very important. And we've seen that result in a lot of growth for our customers and also for Golf Pride as a company. But this is an example of kind of paid for editorial that we do in some print magazines. Instead of doing a print advert, we'll do this educational piece on the importance of regripping, the new innovation like align technology, and the importance of finding the right fit, the right texture. And so all of those educational things to consumers is really how we're presenting our brand more, as opposed to more traditional advertising and marketing. So I'd like to kind of outline, you know, we looked at a lot of opportunity already and a lot of ideas that you could consider when offering a regripping service. But I think that this slide here, certainly with me, when I was doing a lot of research, you know, raised some alarm bells at the start, but I thought to myself, what a wonderful opportunity for the PGA professional. Because when we, through research, asked the simple question of, what are your reasons for regripping? We looked at the top, you know, your grips are fading or getting worn out. So they're the obvious ones. But then down in the end, and I've highlighted, 10 to 11% of the respondents mentioned it was recommended to my PGA professional. So, you know, with the PGA Pro, knowing their students very well and knowing what they're working on and what will enhance their game, I was quite surprised really to see this figure. But I thought to myself, what would that look like if 100% of the referrals were coming from the pro shop as opposed to 10%? That's a fantastic opportunity. So really, you know, when you're looking at your regripping service, how many times have you recommended regripping to your students? Or, you know, is there due diligence to ensure that your students are gripping proper grips? You know, are they in good condition? Are they the right size? How old are they? Those type of things. And this kind of backs up a very strong statement, because we asked, again, the consumer, well, where do you go to get your grips changed? And I do appreciate this is from 2016, but I wanted to leave it in here because I think it's quite a compelling slide. And in 2012, 76% of the respondents said, yes, I go to my PGA professional. He's my first point of contact. So, and then 4 years later, in 2016, that 76% increased to 79%. So I think really the overarching message here is that when recommending grips, the first point of contact is the PGA professional, and it appears to be increasing. PGA professional or club maker. And then also I've highlighted, I do appreciate there's a lot of information on the slide here, but on the right-hand side here, basically what this indicates is that 55% of consumers are purchasing their grips in the store or with the club maker. And then 21% are researching online, but purchasing in the store. So really, you know, in this day and age where there's a lot of competition with online business, what this stat is saying here, that 76% of consumers are purchasing their grips with their PGA professional. So, and then lastly, how do you find out more information about regripping? If you're not experienced, how do you develop the service? And we have online, it's on golfbride.com/core. We've got 3 different training modules based on your ability. The first one is kind of more an introduction into regripping, and then the second one and the third get more and more advanced. So as I say, they're a video, they're very easy to follow, they're very well put together, and they're on golfbride.com/core. So if you have any questions about trying to access any of those videos or any information you want on grip displays or how generally just to enhance your regripping business, I'd be very happy to work with you. And I've listed my contact details on the slide on your screen. So that's exactly a half an hour. So I'm open, Tom, to any questions you might have.
Excellent, thank you, Conor. I hope you enjoyed that. Just to repeat what Conor said, if you've got any questions for him about what he's just spoken about, your own regripping businesses, any of your own experiences, post them in the chat now, and we'll spend a bit of time talking about it. Conor, I'll just start things off whilst I'm waiting for some people to comment. Just thinking about sort of the grip displays and the marketing collateral and all that sort of stuff. Just wondering what, from your own experiences, you've seen has been a key challenge in a pro shop, because obviously they come in very different sizes, shapes, etc. What's been a key challenge in getting the regripping service visible to the customer?
I mean, I think like your stereotypical pro shop will be limited in size, and some people say, yeah, my pro shop is quite small. I don't really have the space to invest in a grip wall or to put it up in one of my slab wall areas, because I've got like a lot of inventory. But I would say to that, and we kind of made comparisons to a profitability use of slab wall space. And we looked at regripping and the fact that they turn over quite frequently and they're very profitable. I mean, gross margins for 45% plus, they're very healthy in the marketplace. And I think when you look at other categories, they don't lend themselves to the same profitability. So I would say that even if space is an issue in your pro shop, I would kind of look at the profitability of how the slat wall areas in the pro shop are used, and if not finding an allocation of space in the pro shop for a grip display, we do have various different shapes and sizes of grip displays. Some of them can be quite small, can be placed on the countertop, and if pro has an issue on the size of the shop, we could look into finding some solutions that would be more compatible for their business.
Yeah, okay. And then I'm just thinking in terms of if you've got somebody on here who perhaps hasn't got a regripping service already, and is feeling inspired to engage with you or Golf Pride, what are sort of, how can they go about doing that, first of all, to access the product for sale, and then also the resources that are available for them to continue to build that regripping service moving forward?
I would say with the tools that they need to support a successful business are quite limited. So really, I know that some people have a mobile gripping station, which is kind of like a mobile vice, and there's a clamp, and they can secure the club into the clamp. And because it's mobile, they can do it in the pro shop. They can promote their business that way. It also provides like an open theater effect. They can roll it onto the driving range. They could even do it on the first tee, just to bring to some of their members awareness. Regripping is something they want to promote. It's quite interesting that with some of the kind of pro shops and the workshops that we've visited in the past, the lack of tools that some of the pro shops have, and it certainly would make their life a lot easier just by having the bare essentials. And they are things like a hook blade that you can easily just kind of rip off the grip. You'll obviously need some double-sided sticky tape, some gripping solution, possibly an apron just to keep your clothing clean. So really, the investment is very limited. And I'd say even with a rubber clamp, a hook blade, some solution and tape, you could be well on your way to running an effective business. And then if you feel that it's worth your while, and then you're getting a great response from your customers, you could possibly invest in something a little bit more sophisticated. But certainly as a starting point, it's a very low investment with some of the things I just talked about there.
And so specifically, if they wanted to get stocked with Golf Pride, then how would they go about doing that? Do they just contact you, or do they have to get into touch with their local regional reps, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if your viewers have questions about growing their business, then I'd be happy to take any queries at all, regardless of how complex or how straightforward they are. But in terms of purchasing the Golf Pride product, in most of the European countries, we've got well-established distributors. And then we've got a few kind of larger distributors that have quite an efficient online business as well. So being able to access the product should be very straightforward. We do have on our website, we've got an area where you can actually see the contact details of the distributor in all the different European markets.
Okay, perfect. And then I've got one, I think it's from Ian. How easy is it for a pro who doesn't necessarily have a retail operation at hand to get involved with regripping and ultimately make it profitable?
I mean, I would say a lot of the PGA pros, in continental Europe, don't have any affiliation to the pro shop at all. So I think even if you've got kind of a permanent location in the driving range, you could set up a little bit of a workshop there. You could put your mobile gripping station there. You could have even quite a small and modest display there. Maybe put up a poster. But one way of kind of capturing the imagination of the consumers that we found very effective is pros actually taking a few photographs of their service and putting it on a neat newsletter and sending out to their database. That to us is, we've seen a lot of success with pros all over Europe using their database to promote their regripping business.
So this comes back to a little bit of some of the talks we've had in previous ones, in case you weren't aware, about making sure you've got a bit of a social database to manage for like email marketing, etc. It's not just about having visual collateral; it's also about building a database and communicating with them about what services you're offering. Then, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I would say from past experience as well, Tom, and the engagement figures that we review at the end of some promotions, that consumers are interested about regripping, because some of the promotions that we've done in the last couple of years, the engagement figures have like been 45% plus, which would indicate that that's well above any industry averages.
Okay, and then just to get a bit of a picture about your sort of average client once they have opted to regrip, sort of, are they regripping a full set of clubs on average, or is it 2 or 3 grips, for example? And what's the rough spend and the net profits from some of this stuff when they've finally engaged with you?
We've got a lot of experience dealing directly with consumers in America only, and what we're starting to determine is that like 8 or 9 grips is on average what consumers tend to be purchasing.
Okay, and then so obviously when you've got a low cost outlay initially for just a hook blade, some solvent and grips, and then pay for the grips, you've got a pretty hefty margin there, haven't you? Then.
Absolutely, yeah, and think about it. You're providing a very good service to your membership or to your pupils as well. So you're absolutely right there, Tom. I mean, it's virtually the outlay is minimal, and the returns are quite significant.
And so, just on that last point, then, would you view regripping as almost an extension to your coaching business? Say, for example, you're a golf coach or a pro, for example. Is regripping more of a just looking at it from a perception point of view and the way you pitch it? It's more of an extension to your coaching rather than a separate regrip service, or is it? What's the sort of way you'd picture it? Does that make sense?
I mean, I think it's a unique opportunity again for the professional, because I would agree that it's an extension of coaching. And just to give you one simple answer there is, if I'm a professional and I'm teaching a lady, and we've got a long-term goal, and the pupil wants to get to handicap 20 over a period of time. And the lady is using grips that are very slick and worn, and you've never had this discussion on grips before with her. Typically, from my own coaching experience a long time ago, but also very well-known coaches that we have as kind of contractors. David Ledbetter is one that we work very closely with, and I know David Ledbetter is always saying that when the grips are too slick, that from his experience, he sees a lot of golfers getting tense and trying to hold on to it tighter and tighter. And obviously that's not very beneficial then for the swing, because you got too much tension in your arms and your wrists. And that doesn't give you the ability then to have a good movement coming back because you're too tense. So I think that's kind of one very straightforward example of you as a PGA professional. I would think it's your due diligence to look at the grips that your pupil is using, and fresh grips will enhance consumers' feeling and also with their movements.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. I've got a couple of questions coming in here. Can be sort of tied together from both Yusek and Aaron Paul. Talking about getting grip stands and promotional material. Do they just request it from distributors? Aaron's in Saudi Arabia, so most of his suppliers are from the Middle East. Just as sort of a bit of more of a clarification on the way they'll go about getting some of this collateral now.
I would think, I think the best point of contact there would be to use my contact details, which are on the screen, and I can certainly point them in the right direction of where to start looking.
Okay, no worries. I thought it'd be a bit of a repeat of the previous couple of questions ago. So
yeah,
there you go, guys.
I mean, I know that in kind of Germany and the bigger European countries, we have established distributors in most of the more mature markets. Whereas Saudi Arabia, we don't actually have one there at the moment. So therefore, that's why I think it might be more beneficial if he was to contact me directly.
Okay, there you go, Aaron. See the contact details on the screen. Maybe just make a note of those, and then you might be able to get some help. We haven't got any more questions coming in at the minute. Just a second. Let me scroll up. How easy is it in terms of? Oh, hold on, we've got one coming through again. Oh, it's just a thank you from Aaron. Sort of in terms of when you initially set up a business, what's the time frame you're looking at from point of I want to do it to actually rolling out your first sort of regrip service? Is it a short turnaround?
Yeah, I think it's a very short turnaround. And again, if there is some kind of more of the less experienced people on the call today, I mean, all it means is kind of attending a webinar like this, trying to get some light bulb ideas, and maybe having a conversation with one or two experienced people, And I think from start to finish, you could turn it around within a couple of weeks. And that would be from ordering the grips to support your promotion, to getting sufficient point of sale displays, to getting hook blades and everything you need to get set up. I think you could get it done in a short space of time.
Okay. No, that I think it just paints such a good picture, Conor, just in general about how this can really enhance your business, but also such a low cost and quick turnaround viewpoint. Anyway, I think we'll leave it there in terms of. Sorry, just got one more. Seeing as we're going from Alec, is there a full package of tools and starting sets from Golf Pride? Don't know how you interpret that.
Yeah, I think that he's probably referring to, like, is there kind of a set package that we make available for someone to start their regripping business, like a hook blade or the solvent, the tape, the displays? The answer to that is no, but certainly we could put you in contact with people who do offer these, and a lot of our distributors that are out there representing Golf Pride in the marketplace, they do have a lot of the add-ons available as well.
Okay, great. No, I'm glad I asked that then, because that's quite a useful pointer there for you, Alec. Okay, we'll close things off. But if you do have any other questions for Conor, how to engage with Golf Pride if you're wanting to set up your own regripping business or get some further support, you've got the contact details on there. So drop in the line, and also if you need to, drop me an email as well, which is tb@cpg.golf. So we'll close things off. So I'd like to just say thank you to you, Conor, first of all, for presenting. I found that really interesting, and some good pointers for the listeners on here to go away and think about. And then also thank you to everybody for attending the webinar today as well. I hope you, as I say, I hope you found that insightful and interesting. Just before you leave, we do have further webinars this week. We had part 1 of the junior coaching yesterday, so we've got part 2 tomorrow with Elliot van der Veek, and then on Friday, part 3 with Veep Geeson. So really useful series there. And then there's some more for next week. So if you need to register for those, please go on the hub page afterwards. As always, we're recording this as well, so we will upload it straight onto the hub page as well, if you miss anything. So just finally, just thank you to everybody again, once again, and I hope you all have a fantastic evening. Conor, do you want to say anything?
Thanks for having me, Tom, and thanks for all the viewers and the callers joining the call today. It was great to have the opportunity to present Golf Pride in front of them.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Conor, I'll just get you to stay on the call whilst everybody leaves, and then we'll close things off. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.